Hello, my name is Miss Valley. I am your student's art teacher. I've got my syllabus up here. We're going to cover a few things today. A little bit about me. I'm a shared art teacher here in the district. This is my 5th year in the district. It's my 11th year teaching. Prior to the Mounds View School District, I was out in Andover for 5 years, and I was at St. Paul for a little bit, and Blaine, so I kind of bounced around a bit there, but I found my home here at Chippewa. I'm mostly at Chippewa Middle School. I also teach at Mounds View High School. So if you do want to get a hold of me, which I always encourage you to reach out if you have any questions or concerns in the slightest, email me at ElliseValley or elise.valley@moundsviewschools.org. That is the quickest way to get a hold of me. For better or for worse, I'm checking my email all the time. So that is a great way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, if you do prefer to speak in person, that is great as well. Call my Chippewa classroom number, 651-621-6473, and you can get a hold of me live and in person on the phone. I can also gladly set up a Google Meet with you if you think that would be best as well. So those are the ways to get a hold of me. A little bit about the class this year is all of our classes are following a Spark curriculum, which is a unique curriculum that is flexible. It allows for students in any learning form to participate and to really have the most amount of equity. Considering this is our class, there are some interesting challenges that come along with materials and things like that and COVID. So our Flex curriculum, it follows the same model for every unit. Each unit starts out with us learning about a diverse artist, their more contemporary artists, their artwork, and the themes that we see, the history behind the piece, the meaning. We have discussions that are rich and deep, and students really get to share their findings, their perspectives, and engage with one another in that part of our unit. We would call that the curate section of our unit. From there, after we wrap up some discussions and we've really dived deeply into a particular work of art and artist, we then do some extension engagement activities. These are mini activities. I would call them more practice activities. They may be a mini sketch where a student needs to engage with this art piece and relate a bit of it to themselves and have a sketch assignment. A student may be assigned to write a story that relates to the theme of the artwork and themselves. So here we're really pushing making that connection between the student and the artist or artwork and making sense of those greater themes. We wrap up every unit with a major, and major I would say in quotes because the size of it and the scale of our artworks at the end of our units aren't as big or as grand as they used to be, simply because our students are transporting their artwork to and from home. And we want to make that doable. So this is a new thing. I still need to wait and see how it's going to turn out because I'm really nervous about sending artwork home with kids and then having them need to bring it back to class. So we'll see how that goes. So that's one of the new things about this class. So with our Spark curriculum, I am taking into account that every student has maybe a different setting at home, different materials available to them at home. And there are times when every student is working at home and some students are always working from home. So the rubrics and how I grade the pieces, if they're practice, it's mainly participation. Did you complete the assignment, right? If it's a major art project at the end of the unit, then there is going to be a rubric provided for the students. And those rubrics, they're not material specific. So if a student has to do an entire artwork by hand with pencil, maybe colored pencils aren't available, that's okay, right? I also want everyone to know if there's anything you need. If there's anything missing from home that you think would greatly help your student and your student's not letting me know, email me. I have no problem setting up a little take-home kit for your child, for your student, if they need something and it could help their experience. So just please let me know. Communication is going to be key this semester. Any questions, any needs, I can provide answers for, materials for you to pick up from the office, etc. we can come to some really creative solutions. So please let me know if there's anything your student is needing at home. Grading, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I do use rubrics for our art pieces, and I'll just show you an example of one of our rubrics. Right now we're working on a piece poster, and we've got a rubric here. Part of the rubric, we have a section that's ungraded. It's something that I want students to be considerate of as they are making their poster. They need to have a focal point. And we've talked about how to use contrast to create a focal point and the different methods that we can use contrast. So students are going to check off what method they use to create contrast and use that to create a focal point. Students are graded on neatness, right? So no unwanted pencil marks, no tears, no folds. Really encouraging students to be careful with their artwork and mindful of how they're transporting it. Understanding that accidents do happen, please let me know if there is any circumstance that takes place to impact the neatness part. 10 points for risk. Students are encouraged to create original ideas, especially if they're ideas that relate back to them and tell their own story. 10 points for artistry. So in this particular project, there's a theme that the students need to dive into. Piece through service. Does your artwork tell that story? Do you use the entire space of your paper to create that artwork and to tell that story? So just 3 simple components here in this rubric. None of them are material specific. And they allow students to really be mindful and intentional about their art making. This is something that is shared with students before the project begins, and they're in the planning phase. So I hope that makes sense. Let's hop back to our rubric here. Actually, let's hop onto our Google Classroom. Each class period begins with a Google Meet. And I also add in another Google Meet time in the middle of the class period for students to check back in with each other and myself to share their ideas, to ask questions if any do come up. So Google Meets is what we are using right now. That could change, but I think we've got enough changes happening for now. I could be switching to Zoom, but if I do, I will let everyone know and we'll make that transition very clear. But Google Meets for now. I think that may have covered everything I intended to share. I hope that helped answer any questions or unknowns that you may have had on your mind. Again, my name is Miss Valley. If you do have any questions, any thoughts, any concerns, do let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm here to help. Art class is looking really different this year because of COVID, and we have a lot of interesting restrictions with sharing materials and what materials we can use, can't use. All these things in my room look so different than it ever did. We're all in desks that are 6 feet apart, so we are keeping things very sanitized, very safe for your student, and I want you to know that their safety is number one. I hope you guys have an awesome day. And email me if you have any questions at all. And I will hopefully see you soon and talk to you later. Take care.